Hi, welcome to Glow's Kinder Kitchen, and I'm Glow. Well, today I wanted to share a recipe with you for some fresh milled bread. And I call this one buttermilk seeded fresh milled bread. And I gotta tell you, it is delicious. I love playing around with coming up with new recipes, and this is kind of my recipe. I had done some research, plus I kind of took a couple of recipes that I already made, switched up a few things, and this is what I've come up with. And we both really like it, and other people that I've given this to like it as well. So I wanted to share it with you. So the first thing you need to do is mill your flour. So, and if you've never had fresh milled flour, I'm telling you, you're missing out.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and it's so healthy for you. But this particular recipe, I am combining 3 different grains. The first one is hard red winter wheat. This one is spelt, and it's spelled S-P-E-L-T. Both of these grains are very nutty flavoring. If you don't like them, that kind of earthy, nutty flavor, don't use that in your bread. But I think it really enhances a loaf of bread. And this is the white hard winter wheat.
Oh yeah.
And that is really good too. This one doesn't have as much flavor as these two, so if you like just a basic bread, then this is what you would want to use. But in this particular recipe, I'm doing, what I'm milling are 2 cups each of the hard red and the hard white, and 1 cup of the spelt. But it's fun to play around with the different grains, and you learn the different flavors, and they're all healthy. So I have the rest of the amount of grains in this bowl, and I'm just going to combine all this and mix it up before I mill. And I won't be using all of this in this recipe, but I like to always mill a little bit more than I'm going to use, and I put it in my freezer. If you're going to mill extra like I do, always put it in your freezer because it will help preserve it. Because after you mill this grain will last forever like this and keep all of its nutrients. But once you mill it and remove the bran and the husk off of here, you will lose all your nutrients very quickly. So for my particular mill, this is the mill itself, and this is the canister to put the flour after it's milled goes into here. Or I should say the grain after it's milled into flour goes into my canister.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. It jumps a little, that's why I hang on to it. So I'm going to start off, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing. This whole thing here will only take about 3 minutes at the most to mill. Using a cup will go much quicker. See how fast that goes through? So I'll be back as soon as this is done. And we're going to go on to the next step to make this bread.
I still think it sounds like an airplane's engine shutting off a jet engine.
It does. So this mill grinds these grains up so fast. I had 5 cups of grain in here, and I think it ground it in less than 3 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug it. And also you saw that I had the mill running afterwards. You need to leave it running for at least 10 seconds after the last of the grains went through on this particular mill. Why that is because it's cleaning your blades so that it gets rid of everything that's on them. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull this apart. This here is the chute that goes from the mill into the canister that shoots the ground up grain into it. I kind of just tap it down, and that helps that flour go back down into that chute. Now this particular canister, I find if I use this tab versus these, and I don't know why, but it opens it up much quicker. And there's our ground grains. Look at that, you guys. And it smells so good, and the grain is warm right now, but that's okay. And
very healthy for you too.
This is great stuff. So anyway, I'm going to clean up my mess here, and then we're going to go on to the next step, actually the second step in making homemade fresh milled bread. Well, now let's go ahead and start combining everything together into our mixer. Regular bread with all-purpose bread flour, you can need that, and I've done that many times. But when you're using this fresh milled flour, I find it much easier to use a mixer, and you want a heavy-duty mixer for it. It will really help you. I mean, yes, you can do it. I have tried it, but it'll wear your arms out because this is going to knead for about 30 minutes total. So think about that. That's a long time to be kneading bread, but it can be done. So the first thing is I've got my 1 3/4 cup of buttermilk, plus I have 1/4 cup of butter in here. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that.
Anything else in there?
No, but I did make up my own buttermilk.
Right.
And we'll actually put the link at the bottom of this for you guys on how to do that. It's super easy. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my mixer on low. I have a dough hook. Let me show you the dough hook first before we get started. And Richard, can you look down in here and see that dough hook that I have connected?
Yep.
Okay, so that's the hook that you want to use. You don't want to use a paddle or a whisk for this. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this in. And that's the buttermilk and the butter. So then I have here, I measured out 1/4 cup of real maple syrup, and I'm going to go ahead and pour that in. Punch that, and I'm just going to use my spatula to get it off. You don't want to waste this because this is expensive. But it makes a big difference in your bread. It's healthier and it tastes really good. You can also use honey. Like when I make honey oat bread with oatmeal, that's very good with the honey. It's also really good with the maple syrup. So it's whatever your preference is. The next thing is I have 1/4 cup of sugar, and it's the cane sugar that's not the really refined. I'm putting that in. And then there's 2 teaspoons of salt. I like this one here. It's real, they call it real salt. You can get it here in the United States. It's mined, I believe, in Utah, if I'm not mistaken.
What store did you buy that at? Do you remember?
Just a regular grocery store. You can also get it online. But it has all the minerals and nutrients in it before it's refined. And I just felt like if I'm going to be making my fresh milled bread, I'm going to use the good ingredients.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. So, and then we're going to start with the flour next. Oh, nope, I backed up. I need my eggs. You need 4 eggs. And it says to put them in one at a time in my other recipes, so that's what I do with this recipe as well. I just slightly beat it up. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to put the eggs in, and I'll be back, and we're going to go on to the next step.
Sounds good, Miss Glow.
Okay, so let's go ahead and turn this back on. Now I have it on the second number on here. That's what you want it on when you're starting to put your flour in and kneading. You don't want it to go any faster than that. So this recipe I use a total of 6 cups of flour, and I add it in slowly. So this is a 1 cup measuring cup. So that's 2. And I'm going to let this, mix up a little. I'll be back when I'm adding the last one, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so I've put 5 cups in so far. I have a half a cup here. I'm going to put that in. I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment. And I'm going to turn it off so you guys can see what this looks like in here. I'm going to remove this. So,
Let me come over.
yep. So let me turn
yeah.
this light on here too so you guys can see better.
It's better.
So what I do with my KitchenAid is I move all this flour that's on the sides down in. Some
yeah.
mixers you're going to have to do this, some you won't. Just depends on the mixer you have. Main thing I'm trying to do is to get all this flour combined and that there's nothing left on the bottom. And it's not combined completely by any means yet. So I'm going to clean off my spatula. And let's turn this on and see where we're at. Once you start using your mixer, you'll know the sound of the gears. I know this is on 2. So one of the ingredients I also add to this is called lecithin. And this helps to keep your dough soft. And not everybody uses it. I don't use it all the time. Eggs work just as well. I have 4 eggs in here, so I could be fine without it. But some of the people I'm making this bread for today really don't like any crumbly bread, and I might get that with this. But this will just, help it a little bit more. This is actually made from sunflowers.
Sunflowers?
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Just 1 tablespoon.
All it takes.
Yep. And I keep this in my freezer. So I can tell by looking at this dough right now that it's going to need some more flour. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it for a minute. And I find that my mixer works better if I put everything back on it. It just seems to help shoot the flour in there better than if I were just to put it in. So that's what I do. So I'm going to add the other half a cup. Put it on 2. And away we go. See, and that's how much flour I have left. I may need a little bit more.
Not
Every
bad.
day is a little different when you're baking. I'm sure you guys have found it depends on the humidity in the air, if it's hot or cold. Also, before I added my milk and butter to this, yes, the milk was melted and I warmed up the milk as well in the microwave. So it was fairly warm. But it does help your bread rise as well. So you can warm up the milk on the stove or in the microwave. You don't want it boiling though. You just want it warm.
And how many
Warm
loaves?
enough to melt your butter.
How many loaves do you think you'll get out of this?
3.
Okay, just
Yep.
like last time.
Yep. And once I get the pans out, we'll talk about the size of them and everything.
Okay.
So, now I'm going to show you what it looks like. We're going to make sure this flour and everything is combined in here. Now, when you're using fresh milled grains, the other thing is it's very important to let your bread and your dough hydrate. So I'm going to warm up a tea towel here, the flour sack tea towel, and I'm going to cover this. And I'm going to let it rest here for about 8 minutes. And then I'm going to be adding my seeds and everything to this before we knead it further. So let me warm up my towel here. There we go. Put this back on. And I'm just going to cover this. And what that does, it keeps the warmth in there and the moisture, and it's going to hydrate for us. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up my mess I have going on here so far, and I'll be back. Hi, well, it's been about 8 minutes. Let's look down in here and see how this is going. So you can tell that the flour has hydrated. I can tell by just looking at this that this is going to need a little bit more flour. I'll probably add about another half a cup. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to, whoops.
Oh man.
It's all right. It's just yeast.
Excuse me.
See how sticky that is? You don't want it that sticky. That's why I need to add more flour. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to add,
Yep.
I'm going to put this lid back on with the chute. And this is going to require about another half a cup of flour. So let me bring my bin over here. I'm going to turn this on. So number 2. It's about a half a cup. A little over a half a cup, but not much. So while that's going, we're going to add some other stuff. The first thing is the yeast that I just knocked over. You were probably wondering, why hasn't she added that yeast yet? And that's because when it's hydrating, I don't. But at this step, I will add it. And it calls for 4 teaspoons for my recipe. So I'm going to do 1 tablespoon, which is 3 teaspoons, plus an additional teaspoon, which will give me my 4.
Fine.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding the seeds. So just look in your cupboard, see what you have. This is millet. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of that. The little brown seeds. See?
Yep.
You wouldn't think it, but this adds a lot of flavor. So that's 2 tablespoons. This is amaranth, and this is very tiny, but it is so good. Can you see those tiny grains?
Barely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they're little tiny seeds. So 2 of those. And then I've got flaxseed. This is red flaxseed. There's gold flaxseed. I'm not really sure the difference between them, but this is what I have on hand. So I'm going to add 2 of those. So you can tell this is a very healthy bread. Then I have roasted sunflower kernels. So I'm going to add 2 of those. See? And these are unsalted. And then I have some sunflower seeds that are not roasted. I'm going to add that. And they both have different flavors. The roasting takes on a different flavor. And the last one I have are pumpkin seeds that are roasted. And these do have some salt. See, aren't those beautiful?
Let me see here. Oh yeah.
And I add 2 of those, 2 tablespoons.
Is that it?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, let's turn this off and we're gonna see if there's any flour in the bottom. Nope, but if I feel that, it feels sticky to me. I'm gonna add a little bit more flour. See, we've had a lot of rain here. So I have a feeling if we had not had all that rain, this would have been perfect. But let's add a little bit more flour.
How much more?
About another half of a cup. And the reason I go slow with that is because,
Don't want to overdo it.
right, you can't take away. Then you're going to have to be adding more liquid, and it's
Oh, no, we don't want to do
not
that.
fun.
No, no.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be about right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this knead. It's going to be kneading for a good half an hour. So I'll be back in about 30 minutes, and we're going to take a look at this and see where it's at, and I'll show you how to tell if it's ready to rise.
Okay,
See you back in
then.
about 30 minutes. Well, this time this kneading only took 20 minutes. 20 to 25. So what I did is I wet my hands. And this dough, look how stretchy it is. I'm going to check for a window, what they call a window pane. And that's where you can stretch this dough and almost see through it. Like, can you see kind of like where my fingers are? Like right there? See?
Yep.
That's what you want. That's showing how stretchy this dough is. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to take some of the olive oil and just work it over here. That's maybe a teaspoon, I would say, maybe a little more. And what I'm working on right at the moment is getting that oil onto the bottom of the bowl so that the dough doesn't stick to that so much. There we go. I'm going to put a little bit more oil over the top. That's maybe at the most a half a teaspoon. So see that? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a plate over it. And I have warmed up a cup of water in my microwave, so it's pretty warm. And I'm going to leave that in there along with the water to rise in my microwave. And the reason I do that, I've provided a warm place for this to rise where there's not going to be any wind or anything, and it will just increase, help the
No air movement around it.
right. So that helps your dough to rise. This is probably going to take 30 to 35, sometimes 40 minutes, but since the humidity's up today, it may not take that long. So anyway, I'm going to check it at about 25 to 30 minutes, and we'll see where it's at that point. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take this off. This has been in the microwave for about 30 minutes. Look at that, you guys. See how nicely that rose?
Looks good, Miss Glau.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. So what I did, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I put a little bit of olive oil here on my counter. My counter's clean.
I can see a little bit.
Okay. And I'm going to just roll this out onto the counter. It just comes right out of this bowl because we had put that oil in there.
Right.
See? It's almost all out.
Yep.
Look at that beautiful loaf of dough here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of shape it here. I need 3 pieces. Now, these here are about the same size. They're about 1.5 quarts each. So I think that's like 8 by 4. This one's a little bigger, so I always allow for extra dough for the bigger one. And what I did before I took this out, I went ahead and put olive oil in all 3 of these, and I used my pastry brush to rub that around in all 3 pans. Why do I do that? It's so that it doesn't stick. So here's half, but I'm going to go over a little bit so that I have about 1/3 for that first larger piece. And then let's do about half of here for the other 2. Now you can weigh this if you want. Today I'm not going to, but you could easily do that. So I'm just going to take these 2 smaller ones. See, they're about the same size. And I'm going to take this other one, and I'm going to just kind of spread that oil around there. Now I'm going to pat it out. Why am I doing that? It's to just get some of those air bubbles, if there are any, out. Do you see those seeds in there? In that dough?
Yep.
So you just want to kind of do it like a rectangle. So then what I do is I take this over here, like a third, and then I take it over like that. So then I turn it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this up over to here. And you kind of stretch it as you're rolling. Well, I meant to do this here too. Okay, so just going to continue. And just kind of roll it under. You do whatever you find works best for you. I sometimes do it this way, sometimes I do it a different way. See on the underside. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pinch this dough together. And if you don't like the way it looks, you can start over. Dough is very forgiving. There. What do you guys think?
Looks good to me.
Okay. So I'm going to put that in the bigger one. All right, let's go on to the next one. Smash it out. Got a nice rectangle going on there. Let's look at the bottom side. Oh yeah. So do this, do that, do this, do that. Wow, can you hear that thunder? We got a nice rainstorm going. July is one of our rainier months in the summer. June we didn't have much rain. Okay, so now I'm going to just take this and stretch as I'm rolling. I think I need a little bit more oil here. As you can tell, it wasn't much. You don't need a lot. Let's pinch this. And just roll it back and forth, and it helps it. There we go. What do you think?
Looks okay. Looks another good one.
Okay, put it right in. So I'm going to go ahead and do the next one, and then we're going to be putting this back in the microwave to rise for an additional about 30 to 35 minutes. You're going to have them rise to where they're just about at the top, and then they'll continue to rise once we put them in the preheated oven. So let me get this done, and then I'll show you what they look like before we put them back in the microwave. So I warmed up my cup of water here, and I have that kind of setting in the back, and I'm going to go ahead and put my bread in here. And it's a tight fit. And then the larger of the three is going to go set on top here. It works, but and you don't need to cover them because the microwave is it's self-containing everything. So this is going to be here 25-30 minutes. Seems like today things are going quicker because the air is so it's so humid. So anyway, I'll be back in 25 to 30 minutes. I'm going to be preheating my oven to 350 degrees. Okay, let's take a look here at our bread. Oh, look how nice that rose, you guys.
Got big.
Yeah, and that's what you want. Look at that. So now I'm going to put it in my oven, and I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees. These loaves of bread are going to take about 30 minutes. And how I tell if they're done is the temperature has to be at 190 degrees or up to 200. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these and put them into my oven, and then I'll see you back in about 30 minutes.
Okay.
Well, our bread just came out of the oven. It was 30 minutes. The temperature inside the bread is between 190 and 200, and that's exactly what you want. Doesn't that look beautiful?
Looks good. It smells good too.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start removing these out of the pans, and I'm going to let you see how I do it. So I take a spatula like this, and I just go around to loosen it up just in case it's not all loosened up. But by oiling these pans ahead of time before we put the dough in, it does help a lot. There we go. So I'm just going to take the one out, and then you don't need to watch me do all three. But let's see how this goes.
Yep, came out pretty good.
Yep. So what I do is I let them cool on their sides. So, and the reason I do that is so that the bread doesn't get smushed down with weight from the top down. So that's going to set there for about 20 minutes or so, and then I'll flip it over on its other side and let it cool as well. So all there is to it. You want to make sure your bread is completely cool if you can wait before you cut it. Sometimes we haven't been able to do that because it smells so darn good. But tomorrow it'll even taste better than it did today because those seasonings get in there from those seeds. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have, please like and subscribe to our channel. If you have not, give me a like, a thumbs up, a comment, and we'll see you again later on in another video. And by the way, I will come back to taste test this probably either later tonight or tomorrow, so you can see what it looks like on the inside as well. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi. Well, it's the evening. Our bread is totally cooled. I went ahead and put some butter on this slice here.
Looks good.
Yeah, and it's so nice and soft. Let me show you on this piece here how easily it folds. It just goes to show how soft this bread is. So I'm going to go ahead and take a bite. It smells so good, you guys. I wish you were here to try this with us. You can taste the seeds in there and the fresh milk flour. And with that butter on it, it's so soft. And then those seeds in there with that crunch, it is delicious. I don't know if you've ever had fresh milk bread before, but if you haven't, you're missing out. Give it a try sometime. And I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us today. And again, If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do. Give me a like, thumbs up, and a comment. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, Miss Glow.